Introduction. Let the modern world slip quietly from your shoulders. Close your eyes if you wish, and imagine yourself far away, in a place where the sun rises like a molten disk above endless sands, where the wind carries whispers through ancient stone, and where time drifts not in seconds, but in centuries. Tonight we travel to ancient Egypt. This land of towering pyramids and eternal gods is often remembered for its grandeur, its gold, and its silent tombs. But behind the splendor lies a much harder truth, a world shaped not only by beauty, but by toil, ritual, and relentless environment. You'll begin your journey in the desert sun, under the weight of a stone block on your back, building monuments to eternity. Then you'll follow the brief, curious life of a boy who became a god, only to vanish just as suddenly. We'll descend into the secrets of tombs, where the dead are not silent, but carefully staged. And finally, we'll drift into the lives of Egypt's elite, pharaohs, priests, and queens, whose luxuries tell as much about the past as the pyramids do. So breathe deeply, let the heat rise around you. The Nile flows in the distance. The sand is warm beneath your feet. We begin our story in the harshest place of all, beneath the shadow of a pyramid, with sweat on your brow and stone dust in your lungs. Segment 1. Why it sucked to be a worker on the pyramids. The morning begins not with a gentle breeze, but with the harsh trumpet of a foreman's voice echoing down the riverbank. You are awake before the sun crests the horizon, though the sky already glows pale gold. You rise from a mat of bundled weeds, your body stiff from yesterday's labor. All around you men stir, some grumbling softly, others already tying cloth around their heads to ward off the sun. You are a worker at Giza, not a slave, as many believe, but a laborer, one of thousands. You've been brought here as part of a national project. Your work is paid, your family provided for in grain and beer. But what you're about to do each day is no small thing. The pyramids are rising slowly, layer by layer, like mountains born from dust. Their size is incomprehensible, each limestone block heavier than a cart of oxen, and there are tens of thousands to place. Ramps stretch upward at sharp angles, creaking under the strain of wooden sledges. Ropes cut into palms, voices crack with shouting commands. Your role today is hauling stone. With 6 others, you grip thick ropes tied around a sledge. The block above you groans as it shifts. Your feet sink into wet sand, water poured by other workers to reduce friction. Still, every step is laborious. Your muscles scream. The sun, now higher, begins to scorch the back of your neck. The work is not only exhausting, it's dangerous. Just last week, a man was crushed beneath a misaligned stone. The foremen say little. The gods will sort it. Another man takes his place. No funerals here, only continuity. During brief breaks, you gather in a shaded tent. The food is simple. Bread mixed with sand, the grit grinding against your teeth. You chew slowly, silently. Beer, thick and yeasty, offers a moment's relief. It's warm, but comforting. Your fingers tremble slightly as you wipe sweat from your brow and prepare to return to the ramp. The noise is constant, hammers striking copper chisels, wooden mallets cracking stone, the wheeze of overworked lungs, the bellow of oxen, and always the wind. Fine desert sand sneaking into every crevice, into your eyes, your ears, your throat. Your back aches, your sandals wear thin, but still you pull. Each day is the same, measured not in hours, but in how many stones you help move. Nights bring little relief. You sleep surrounded by the scent of sweat, crushed grain, and worn linen. You dream not of the gods or the afterlife, but of cool shade and soft beds. And yet, in your heart, you know this labor is sacred. You are not simply building a tomb, you are raising the resting place of a god. A pyramid meant to touch the sky. When the pharaoh ascends, it is believed he will become one with Ra, the sun god, and live forever in the afterlife. Your work is part of that journey. You may never meet the pharaoh. You may not even see the final stone placed. But you know your sweat is written in every level of the monument, and in that there is pride. Still, that pride does not ease your hunger, or the pain in your joints, or the danger that waits with every misstep on the ramps. So when you wake tomorrow, before the light, before the noise, you'll do it all again. Because to stop is to be replaced, and to be replaced is to vanish. This is the reality behind the grandeur, the truth beneath the limestone. Not gold, not mystery, but sweat, dust, and the sound of 1,000 hands building eternity. Segment 2, the life and death of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Now, let us step away from the heat and toil of the pyramid site. The dust begins to settle. The hammering fades behind you, and in its place, a softer rhythm begins. Drums echoing from a distant temple. The whisper of papyrus leaves along the Nile. You are entering the world of royalty, of divine lineage and ceremonial silence. In this stillness, a boy becomes a god. His name is Tutankhamun, a name that today echoes through museum halls and golden death masks, but in his lifetime was both a blessing and a burden. He was born around 1341 BCE, during one of Egypt's most turbulent religious and political upheavals. His father, almost certainly Pharaoh Akhenaten, had dismantled the ancient polytheistic traditions, replacing Egypt's entire religious structure with the worship of a single deity, Aten, the sun disk. This bold move fractured the priesthoods, reshaped temples, and displaced the gods worshipped for generations. It was into this fractured world that Tutankhamun was born. He was not born with the name you now know. His original name was Tutankhaten, meaning living image of Aten. But Egypt was not at peace. Akhenaten's new capital city, Akhetaten, was a ghost town before it was even complete. His religious experiment left deep scars in Egyptian society. After his death, the power vacuum drew in advisors, generals, and priests, each jockeying to steer the kingdom back to stability. Into this chaos, Tutankhamun became pharaoh at the age of 9, a child in name, a god in duty. Surrounded by powerful adults, the Vizier Ai, the General Horemheb, and the returning Amun priests eager to restore the old gods. One of his first royal acts was not one of warfare or construction, but of reversion. He abandoned his father's monotheism. He changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun, living image of Amun. The capital was moved back to Thebes. The temples were reopened. The statues of the old gods, covered or defaced under Akhenaten, were restored. This was no small thing. It was a signal to Egypt that the world would return to order. Ma'at, the cosmic balance, had been disrupted, and now, through this boy pharaoh, it could be restored. Despite his youth, Tutankhamun married Ankhesenamun, likely his half-sister. The marriage was symbolic, intended to preserve royal bloodlines. They had no surviving children, though 2 mummified fetuses were found in his tomb, tiny, wrapped, and buried beside him. A glimpse of private grief in a public life. As pharaoh, Tutankhamun commissioned artworks, rebuilt temples, and sought to restore Egypt's diplomatic relations. But he remained a figurehead. Real power belonged to his advisors. Then, at the age of just 19, Tutankhamun died. The cause of his death remains uncertain. Theories have ranged from malaria and bone disease to a chariot accident. CT scans of his mummy revealed a fractured leg and signs of infection. He also suffered from congenital health problems, possibly the result of royal inbreeding, a clubfoot, scoliosis, and a fragile skeletal frame. His death, sudden and unprepared for, threw the court into motion. There was little time to build a grand tomb. Instead, he was buried in a small, hastily prepared chamber, likely not even intended for a king. But it was well stocked with treasures and sealed tightly in the Valley of the Kings. And so, Tutankhamun passed quietly from history until 1922. That was the year British archaeologist Howard Carter uncovered his tomb. still largely intact. Gold glinted in the torchlight. Walls shimmered with ancient murals, and at the center, nestled within layers of coffins and shrines, was the boy king, wearing a golden mask that would become one of the most iconic images in archaeology. The world was captivated. Tutankhamun became a household name, not for what he had done in life, but for what he had taken with him in death. Today, his name is everywhere, his image replicated on souvenirs and museum posters. Yet behind the fame lies something quieter, more solemn. A young life spent in the shadow of power. A boy who wore the crown of Horus, who walked with the weight of gods upon his shoulders, and who vanished before he could grow into his legacy. His tomb was not meant to last forever, and yet it did. It whispered across millennia, waiting in silence, until the world was quiet enough to hear it again. Segment 3, the mystery of Egyptian tombs. Let us now descend. Imagine standing at the mouth of a tomb, carved into the limestone cliffs of the Valley of the Kings. The midday sun warms your back, but before you lies only shadow. A passage cool and silent, where no breeze dares enter. You step forward slowly, and with each footfall the air thickens. The light dims, dust stirs faintly in the beam of your torch. This is not a place for the living, but here we are. The Egyptian tomb, so often imagined in gleaming gold and hidden curses, is in truth a more complicated thing. Part architecture, part theology, part mystery. These were not just graves, they were doorways. Machines built to ensure the soul's journey beyond death. Construction began the moment a pharaoh took the throne. The tomb was not an afterthought. It was a project of a lifetime. Sometimes it was completed in haste, sometimes never at all. Workers, like the ones you met earlier, toiled in secret, carving long corridors and hidden chambers deep into the desert stone. The goal was not to create comfort, but protection. Protection from time, from robbers, from spiritual interference. Inside, walls were coated in plaster, then painted with vivid scenes. In the dim flicker of a flame, these images seemed to shift and move. The pharaoh journeying past stars, past jackal-headed guides, through gates guarded by fire serpents, to stand before Osiris, god of the underworld. But it was not only pictures that adorned the tomb. There were texts, rows upon rows of ancient hieroglyphs, incantations from the Book of the Dead, pyramid texts, and later the Amduat. These were not decorative. They were tools, spells, maps, instructions for how to be reborn. Everything in a tomb had purpose. The sarcophagus, carved from granite, sat at the center. Nested within it were coffins, sometimes 3 or 4, each painted, inscribed, gilded. Around it, jars containing canopic remains, the stomach, lungs, liver and intestines, each guarded by a divine figure. There were shabtis, small carved figures, meant to serve the dead in the afterlife. Furniture, weapons, food, jewelry, miniature boats, all items the deceased might need to continue life in the field of reeds. And then, of course, there was the gold. Egyptian belief held that gold did not tarnish. It was eternal, like the gods. So masks, amulets, and even sandals were fashioned from it. The more divine the deceased, the more gold surrounded them. But this also invited danger. Tomb robbing was as old as the tombs themselves. Despite traps, false doors, and hidden corridors, most tombs were breached within decades, some within years. The silence of the desert was often broken by chisels and whispers in the night. And yet, some remained untouched. Tutankhamun's tomb is the most famous, but others, like that of Yuya and Chuyu, were discovered almost intact. Their coffins still sealed, their linen wrappings still fragrant with resin. But what makes tombs mysterious isn't just their contents, it is what we don to know. Even now, we puzzle over incomplete tombs, chambers sealed for reasons unknown, hieroglyphs that reference rituals we can't quite reconstruct, entire royal burials, like that of Queen Nefertiti, that remain lost, rumored to lie just behind hidden walls. Even the Great Pyramid holds secrets. It was long believed to be solid, its inner chambers mapped decades ago. But in 2017, scientists using cosmic ray imaging discovered a massive hidden void above the Grand Gallery. Its purpose? Unknown. Its contents? Still a mystery. And then there are the curses. While modern scholars dismiss the idea of supernatural retribution, the fear of tomb curses remains vivid. After Howard Carter opened Tutankhamun's tomb, several members of his expedition died under strange circumstances, including Lord Carnarvon, who funded the dig. Was it coincidence or something more? The ancient Egyptians might smile at our speculation. For them, death was not to be feared but managed. A transition, not an end, and the tomb was the bridge between the two worlds. So as you walk once more through the painted halls, mind the dust on the floor. Step quietly. The air is old here. You pass a mural of a figure with the head of a falcon, Horus guiding the king to the stars. In the chamber beyond, the last of the oil lamps has long since gone out, but the gold still gleams in darkness. The scarabs are still nestled on the chest of the king. The names are still written, and the tomb waits, as it always has, for the next visitor, whether in sandals or in dreams. Segment 4. The luxury of royal life in ancient Egypt. Now that we've emerged from the tombs and stepped out of shadow, let us shift our gaze upward, toward the towering palaces of ancient Egypt, where the air is perfumed with incense and the marble floors echo with soft footsteps. This is the world of the pharaohs, the queens, the viziers, and the high priests. A world of silks and gold, of rituals and banquets, of soft linens and painted columns. A world removed from the dust and strain of the common laborer, but one not entirely free of burden. Step now into the great court of a palace in Memphis or Thebes. The heat of the desert sun is kept at bay by thick stone walls and billowing linen curtains. A servant approaches, pouring water laced with lotus petals into a carved alabaster basin. Music hums gently from a harp in the distance. The air is cooler here, scented with frankincense and myrrh, burning slowly on a polished bronze dish. If you were born into royalty in this ancient land, your day would begin not with work, but with ceremony. The pharaoh is not simply a king. He is divine, the living embodiment of Horus, the falcon god, and the son of Ra, the sun itself. Every action of his life, from the first breath at dawn to the quiet meals at dusk, is framed by ritual. He bathes in sacred water, dons symbolic garments, white linen, leopard skins, gilded collars, and offers prayers not for himself, but for the stability of all Egypt. The queen, too, is no mere consort. She's a partner in ritual, often depicted with wings of protection, or with the vulture crown of Mut, the mother goddess. Some queens, like Hatshepsut, even ruled in their own right, taking on male symbols of power, including the pharaonic beard. Their children are raised in splendor, but trained in politics and religion. From a young age, they are taught to read hieroglyphs, study astronomy, and recite prayers. They do not play in sand, but among carved pillars and sacred texts. Meals are elaborate. Dishes of roast duck, honeyed figs, barley cakes and lentils. Wine from distant vineyards in amphorae sealed with wax. Every course served on fine pottery or silver plates, brought in on trays carried by rows of silent servants. And then there are the gardens. Yes, even in this desert land, the royal estates bloom. Meticulously irrigated with water drawn from the Nile, royal gardens are filled with date palms, lotus flowers, pomegranates, and shaded pools. These are not simply for beauty. They are spaces of spiritual reflection, often linked to temples, where the pharaoh or priest might walk in quiet thought, surrounded by symbols of eternal life. The priests, too, enjoy a royal sort of existence. Though not kings, they wield enormous power. In great temples like Karnak and Luxor, the high priests of Amun control not only spiritual matters, but wealth, land, and politics. Some temples employ thousands: scribes, musicians, artisans, guards. Clothing is light but elegant. For the elite, linens are sheer, pleated and perfumed. Jewelry is abundant: broad collars of faience and lapis lazuli, rings set with scarabs, amulets carved from carnelian and turquoise. Every item serves both decorative and magical purposes. And yet, for all its splendor, royal life is not without shadows. The threat of assassination, intrigue among court officials, and pressure to maintain the divine image weighs heavily. The eyes of gods and people alike are always watching. A misstep is not merely a political failure, it is a cosmic disruption. Many pharaohs died young, some were overthrown, others, like Akhenaten, were nearly erased from memory. The price of divine status was never true peace. Still, in the silence of the royal chamber, one might find serenity. Imagine reclining on a carved ebony couch, the linen cushions soft beneath you. A servant waves a fan made of ostrich feathers. Through a screen of reeds, you glimpse the setting sun over the Nile, its waters glowing red gold. And for a moment, the world feels still. The balance of Ma'at, order, truth, harmony is preserved. In this final vision, the rhythm of ancient Egypt slows to a whisper. From the dusty footprints near the pyramids to the gold-leafed walls of palaces, it is a civilization of contradictions. Grinding labor and transcendent ritual, death and eternity, silence and splendor. Let the torches burn low. Let the painted gods close their eyes. Conclusion. And now we leave the land of the black earth behind. From the harsh, sun-baked sands, where laborers carved stone for gods they would never meet, to the incense-scented stillness of royal chambers, where pharaohs murmured prayers to Ra at sunrise, we have wandered across the full breadth of ancient Egypt. You have felt the ache in the back of a pyramid builder. You have stood quietly at the side of a boy king whose name would echo into eternity. You have descended into tombs lined with stars and spells, where golden masks lie waiting. And you have stood barefoot in palace gardens, listening to the gentle trickle of water flowing through channels carved by human hands thousands of years ago. Egypt was never just one thing. It was sweat and gold. It was silence and chanting. It was sandals scraping over stone. It was life stretched long beside a river, where time moved with the flood and retreat of the Nile. And though its empires crumbled and its gods were replaced, the rhythm of those lives still hums, soft and slow, beneath the dust, beneath the stone, beneath your thoughts, now growing heavier. So rest now. Let the echo of footsteps fade in the corridors of the temple. Let the sun set behind the pyramids one final time. Let the sand cover the tools, the scrolls, the amulets, and let your breath slow like the current of the Nile at night. You are far from toil now, far from the weight of bricks and crowns. You drift, quiet and unburdened, towards sleep, and the gods watch over you, gently. Sleep well.